All right, special edition right now. Velle Neal III joins me, longtime Twins beat writer, current Star Tribune columnist. Big news on Tuesday, Lavelle. Of course, Twins agreeing to terms pending physical. You don't usually get pending physical above the fold, as we say in the newspaper industry, but with Carlos Correa, it has to be based on the way this is all played out. But if this all goes down, a 6-year, $200 million deal, way less than he was going to get in the very beginning from the Giants, $100 million, $115 million less than he was going to get from the Mets, all the way down to this. Twins swoop in, make enough of an offer to get him. What do you make of how this played out and the resolution to it, Lavelle?
Yeah, I'm still stunned. I didn't know we were going to ever get to this point. I really assumed that the Mets and Steve Cohen would figure out a way to make ends meet here, but we didn't know at the time that the Mets pretty much had cut their offer in half to 6 years guaranteed and $157.5 million. I can easily see why Scott Boras would say heck no to that.
What? And isn't Cohen the guy that said it's just money? Like, why are they lowballing now all of a sudden?
Yeah, all of a sudden, this pre-spending Steve Cohen only. Maybe someone got to him about the luxury tax that he was headed for. I don't know. But based on what I was told, Mike, the MRI isn't pretty on that ankle. He injured it in 2014, and he's got some hardware in there. And I guess there's some concern, in the back half of his career that hardware could lead to some problems. So there's some risk involved, but taking a risk over 6 years is totally different than taking it over 12. So the Twins are hoping that they get the safe part of Carlos Correa's career guaranteed. And if he stays healthy, and if he hits certain thresholds in that last year, then he can start making some more of that vested money that's on the back end of that deal, potentially making $270 million over 10 years. So kudos to the Twins for hanging in there and kind of monitoring the situation and staying around it because it looked like they're going to get blown out of water, not once, but twice by National League teams, and ended up getting Carlos Correa back, which is big, for the lineup, for the locker room, for a lot of different reasons. I mean, if we get the Twins television contracts up after this year, they can now go to whoever they're going to negotiate with, because I don't know what the status of Bally Sports North is going to be next year. But they're like, we got two guys locked up for the next 6 years in Carlos Correa and Byron Buxton, who are the top two picks of the draft and who are both all-stars. That's worth ratings, and they can use that as leverage for whatever deal they can negotiate. So it also helps that you got continuity in the lineup. If he went to the Mets, he'd have to play third base, where I don't think his numbers really looked that great as a third baseman. So I think there's a lot of positives to him staying in town.
Now, as recently as a few days ago when we started to hear, hey, Twins could be back in the mix, it felt like it was just, negotiating ploy, like Boras was trying to put pressure on the Mets, things like that. Do you have a guess or a sense of when this became more serious, when it became, hey, they're not just trying to use the Twins as this mystery team or this this team to force the Mets into action, that this is really something that could become a possibility?
Well, it sounds like there was some momentum gaining yesterday and definitely this morning, because I was awakened with a message from someone not with the Twins claiming that this Correa deal may be done. I immediately reached out to a Twins official who says we definitely have momentum and things are definitely headed in the right direction. And I'm sitting there going, I still didn't believe it, because I just felt in the end that this could have been a ploy. The Twins are going to be foils again for Scott Boras, who would just get the best deal for the Mets. But I guess it wasn't. Like I said, we didn't know. I thought that I was led to believe the Mets just wanted to get out of the last 2 to 3 years of the deal. I didn't know they're trying to get out of the last 6. And once that became known, it makes sense that Boras and Correa would probably take a step back and go, all right, should we call the Twins again? Yeah, they did. So, kudos to the Twins for, at least being open to anything. And that also goes to show you that, that the one danger, the big thing in baseball right now is signing these 10-year, 12-year deals. You got, you got you got Bryce Harper in the middle of a 12-year deal. Xander Bogaerts signed a 10-year deal. This is the new hotness now, signing these 10-year contracts, and these are the issues you're going to get into when teams start looking at you and doing physicals, they're going to try to imagine, what is this guy going to look like in year 8, year 10? What, he's got a plate in his ankle? Wait a minute here, and so I think that's what happened with Correa, and that's why he ended up signing for a modified deal.
Now, Twins are coming off a season where their medical stuff was in shambles. They lost a lot of guys to injury, guys who seemed like they were going to come back in weeks. It took months. That piece of it, when two teams have already said, no, this is enough of a red flag that we don't want you for, this long. And again, I get it. I'd much rather have this on a 6-year deal than 10 or 12 or whatever. That said, how concerned are you, or should the Twins be, or should a Twins fan be, that two other teams have said, no, we like the player, but man, this is too much of a risk, and that a team that doesn't necessarily have the greatest recent history is now poised to take the plunge on this?
Yeah, I mean, you should be slightly concerned because of the status of the ankle. And there was a play late last season when he slid in second base and stayed on the ground for a few minutes because apparently that plate in his ankle started vibrating, But he ended up being fine. He ended up not missing time. He actually ended up tearing it up in September. It was like his best month of the year. So you're hoping that if he ever has an issue with the ankle, that's the extent of it, that he may just get a little vibration there and he could still keep playing. But, nothing's a given here. But, once again, he's going to be 34, 35, I think, when his contract runs out. So you're hoping that you get through that stage where the chances are of a serious injury, because in that surgically repaired ankle would lead to him missing a chunk of games.
Take a playcation to Mystic Lake. With 24/7 gaming, the good times never have to end. And you can satisfy your cravings at our restaurants and bars. Or relax in one of our luxurious hotel rooms. Those that play together, stay together. And don't forget to join Club M so you can spark new memories and bask in the rewards along the way. Follow the lights to Mystic Lake, where every day is play day.
What about the public relations of this? Now, if he had signed with the Twins right off the bat, even if there had been a question of the medicals and they had signed off on it, I think people would have been ecstatic. I think now, because of the process, it feels different. I'm sure fans are still going to be happy to a large degree if they are Carlos Correa fans, and he certainly had a good year for the Twins last season. But PR wise, it doesn't feel like they're going to get the same kind of benefit when you end up being the third choice after all this process is played out.
Yeah, but I think if you look at the final terms in the agreement, that's something that's a little more palatable. And I think from a PR standpoint, they'll get a little bit of a bump. There'll be some fans that will grumble, go, I wish we'd be spending $33 million a year on a pitcher who could be an ace. And that's fair. There's no one out like that. There's no one available right now. Maybe at the beginning of the offseason there was, but we saw, I think Jacob DeGrom is getting like $40 million a year from the Rangers. Right. He's old and has been broken down. Syndergaard signed. Well, who else signed for the Verlander signed for a chunk of change. He's 37. So there's risk there because these guys are all old, aging, and guys who have injuries. Verlander's 2 years removed from Tommy John, but they're still getting ridiculous salary. So, man, it's hard. It's just so hard to develop and hold on to an ace pitcher. It's really tough. But from a lineup standpoint, the Twins are going to have a solid lineup. They have a bunch of young players that are still growing. They have Luis Arias, who just won his first batting title. You need health. If Buxton can stay on the field, it's a daily lineup that can be dangerous, especially in AL Central. I was listening to Chicago Sports Talk today when the Correa deal was announced, and both the announcers for the Score 670 started screaming, "He's back in the division! Oh no!" So that's some of the sentiment that's outside the Twin Cities.
Yeah, a few more things for you, Lavelle, on this special edition of Daily Delivery, talking, of course, about the big news, Carlos Correa agreeing to terms to come back to the Twins. He was here last year on kind of that 3-year deal that was essentially a 1-year deal. He opted out of that about 9 weeks ago, and since then it's been this real odyssey of First the Giants, then the Mets, and now back to the Twins. I want to read you his quote from, I think it was late in the season. He said, "When I go to the mall and I go to the Dior store, when I want something, I get it. I ask how much it costs and I buy it. If you really want something, you just go get it." And I think that quote's going to follow him around. I was having some fun today. I looked up the return policy for the Dior store, and he said you can return if you buy it online. You return any order within 30 days of receiving it. But there are some things you can't return from a Dior store. And making a purchase in a Dior boutique, the following list of items are final sale: evening wear, exotic skins, furs, fine jewelry, watches, earrings, cosmetics, bathing suits, lingerie, eyewear, sale merchandise, personalized merchandise, special orders, or merchandise that has been altered or worn. I would consider Carlos Correa at this point to be sale merchandise. You can't bring this back, Lavelle. Do you think they're going to have buyer's remorse at a certain point for shopping at the Dior store, even at a discount?
I don't think so. I don't think there's going to be much shoppers remorse as long as he stays in the lineup. And I think, he'll be relatively healthy the first 3 or 4 years of the deal. And he's hitting his prime years. We should see, I talked to Theo Epstein when I was in San Diego for the Hall of Fame meetings. Sure. And he's a big Correa guy. He thinks Correa's going to age well. He thinks Correa has a 40 home run season in him, So there are still people thinking that there's more offensively that this guy has to offer. And if he can produce 40 homers as a shortstop, that's huge for any team. So, you should be happy that people should be happy that the Twins have a player of his caliber and of his skill set, because when he's healthy and when he's swinging well, and he could be a devastating force at the plate. And I think that's what Twins are going to be looking for over the next 4 to 5 years.
Absolutely. Now let's remove some of the red flags. Like you said, there is a lot to like about Carlos Correa if he is healthy, and he was by and large healthy last season. He's had a lot of healthy seasons. This ankle, for whatever, as much of a red flag as it's causing on physicals, MRIs, has held up to this point. If he does continue on this path, this will be a contract very much that he will have earned, and the Twins will be happy. I think you're correct with that. Big picture, what does this say about the Twins? We're talking about a franchise that hasn't gotten into this territory very often. We obviously the Joe Mauer contract, but he was one of their own when they signed him to that 8-year, $184 million deal. They signed Josh Donaldson for $4 and $92, but this is way past that. This is $200 million over 6 years. This is an average value, but way more than they've ever done. What do you make of kind of what this says about where this franchise is right now?
Well, I think Jim Pohlad was always willing to sign the right player for the right amount, and I think Joe Pohlad, his nephew, is even a little more willing to spend than probably Jim, and Jim definitely is willing to spend more than Carl. So it seems like as we're going through the generations of Pohlads, each one's getting a little more willing to open up the pocketbook a little bit. Also, every major league team this year has another $30 million to spend because they sold off the remaining part of their MLB BAM online business. And so that also gave teams encourage teams to spend more. There's also a belief that there's going to be a big bounce back revenue-wise across the league this year as they get more removed from the COVID year. Things are looking to be a $12 billion industry, maybe go to 13 this year. And so I think a lot of teams are acting on those projections as well, saying that we can afford to push the payroll a little bit higher than that. I'm sure the Twins are looking at those numbers as well. So it just seems like maybe it's the right time with the right market forces that allow the Twins to make this transaction.
Appreciate you joining me here today, and we'll catch you again soon.
My pleasure. Take care.